Hey, so in this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about, what I wish I had known starting out at UWSP that I know now. And some of those things, I guess I'm going to start with the why. Like, that's one of the most important things is you have to understand why you're here, why you're doing this, why you're paying all this money to go through this major. And it has to be more than just to get a job at the end of it, right? Like, it needs to come from inside of you. There needs to be some sort of purpose, because if you don't have that why, it's going to be really difficult for you down the line, or at least it was for me, to stay true to what I was there to do. I let a lot of things get in the way because I didn't have a clear understanding of why I was there to do the things. I got caught up in the how, like, how do I get good grades, or how do I make it so that I do this, or how do I make it so that I'm a good student. But those things figure themselves out when you have your why. And that was a piece of advice that I got from one of my mentors, Sam Dinga. He's the DCA director at UWSP. So if you don't know him, definitely get to know him, Sam Dinga. One of my other points that I wanted to bring up was you gotta be willing to do the hard stuff, right? So you gotta be able to sit in the fire, and this is something that it takes practice. The first time around, you're not gonna like it. The first few times around, you're not gonna like it. But you have to understand how to reward yourself, because there's a lot of low-level behaviors out there, going out with your friends, like playing video games, all these other things that give you that quick dopamine hit that help you feel fulfilled. But you have to understand that if you're able to rewire your brain in a way where you're able to get that reward from the hard things, from that delayed gratification, then that's going to benefit you more in the long term. And it's a lot easier said than done. That's something that I'm trying to cultivate now. And I feel like that is easier to do when you have that sense of purpose, when every decision you have is drawn back to that why. So kind of connecting it back to my first point. So another one of the things that I wanted to mention would be taking extreme ownership of everything that happens in your life, right? And this one's a bit harder to do because obviously there are going to be things that happen, people that come into your life that are outside of your control. But I take this stance because I feel like it's way more empowering than the opposite, right? So you're saying that everything good and everything bad that is coming into my life that I'm experiencing emotionally, financially, whatever it is in school, is directly related to me and my actions that I've taken in some way, right? And the reason why I do that is because I feel like taking that stance empowers you a lot more versus the opposite, which is, these things are happening to me. So for example, say you get a bad professor, right? We all have that experience where we have that one professor we just don't vibe with. It's hard for us to understand the way that they're presenting the material, whatever the case may be. Instead of taking that stance of, oh, this professor isn't doing their job right, or whatever it might be, it's a lot more productive if you look at yourself and you're like, how can I adjust? How can I change to make this a successful experience for myself? And that's really hard to do because it takes the step of looking at yourself to change. And it's a lot harder to change yourself than it is to want to change other things outside of you. So definitely think about that, because it's a very powerful thing. And again, obviously, when it comes down to things, it's not always going to be that way, but that's going to give you a lot more control in your life of the things that are influencing you than if you go the other route, because then you're just an object and things are just being applied to you versus being a driving force in your life that can influence the direction that you're going to be going in. And I also wanted to mention a few books too that I feel like have definitely helped progress my mindset when it comes to these things, that I wish I had read sooner, or even listened to. They're all on Audible, so give them a check. And it's going to start off with 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is one of the cornerstone books. I've read it like so many different times, and I'm still finding different ways to apply it into my life. And it kind of just instructs you, I would say, on different methods that you can use to become the type of person that you want to be effective in your relationships, be effective in your goals, all these different aspects of what make you who you are. And it also helps you cultivate that image and that understanding within yourself. So definitely give that a read. Other than that, I would want to recommend No, I already said that. I would also want to recommend The Ways of the Superior Man. I know that this is computer science, so there's probably a lot of guys that would be watching this video and see an MT 100, but also for the women, it's a very useful book in understanding your sense of purpose and drive. And like I talked about earlier in the video, that's like the cornerstone of a lot of what I would recommend is cultivating that and understanding that. And this book really helps with that. It also talks a bit about feminine and masculine energy within yourself and understanding that balance between you and other people as well. It's a very insightful book, I would say. It taught me a lot of things about human to human interaction that I'm noticing a lot more every day. And last but most certainly not the least, I would recommend Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's definitely something that's helped me reframe my mindset when it comes to the value that I have associated with me and understanding not only financially, but just the way that society helps or has constructed your belief of yourself. And it really helped me break out of understanding that I'm not just the social economical class that I grew up in. I'm not, just the different types of experiences that have happened to me. So that's definitely one of the other books that I would recommend.